Hello, my name is Sissy and I'm Timothy's widow. If you're new to my channel, you'll notice this video is not my normal type of content. So let me explain briefly what this is all about. Recently it was brought to my attention that a certain Flerffer was using grief terminology, specifically the 5 stages of grief, in a manner that I call inappropriate as well as incorrectly. The video clips that you are about to see are disturbing. Disturbing as in the manner the terminology is used, as well as in the delivery, and with the content that the 5 stages of grief are associated with. My channel and my mission are to bring supportive and educational content to those who visit here. I'm not a grief expert by any means. My research has been through many months of reading and learning. I knew shortly after I lost my husband that I wanted to be available for other grieving individuals, to be supportive, and to just be there, because I know the nightmare that they're living through. Grief, the terminology, the struggle, the journey, and for those of us who are grieving, we all deserve not only respect, but we deserve the proper use and presentation of the terminology and the concepts associated with grief. So before we get started, there are a couple of things that I quickly want to put out there. In all honesty, this is not the first attempt at this video. There was, for a very short period of time, on YouTube the other night, another version of this video available. I have a friend who is a sometimes part-time assistant, I guess you could say, and we sat and viewed that video once it went live on YouTube. We quickly determined that it was just wrong. It didn't achieve our goal. The style, the way that we had it originally formatted, it was just not correct, so we quickly pulled it. I do not normally consider myself a react and review style type of content maker. That is not the mission of my channel. I am not here to debunk or ridicule anyone else's belief of a scientifically proven wrong concept. If you want to believe what you want to believe, that's fine. That's not the goal of this video. I will say that this has been the most excruciating video content that I have made as of yet. But after viewing that first attempt, we quickly decided that this video had to be both objective, but it also needed to be a learning opportunity. That is, it needed to be a source of education in regards to the grieving process, to grieving terminology, and to the grief journey itself. So that being said, this is the revised version, and I'm really hoping that we did I'm not going to say that I'm hoping we did a great job, but I am hoping that the points that we want to get across to you, the viewer, I'm hoping we did that in the best way possible. That being said, let's get started. So the first concept that we need to take a really quick look at so that this whole video is going to make sense to you is, what is a Flerffer or a flat earther? Misspelled and mispronounced intentionally. A Flerffer is an individual who subscribes to the belief that the earth is flat, rather than being an oblate spheroid as established by scientific consensus. Flerffers reject the overwhelming evidence from various scientific disciplines, including astronomy, geology, and satellite imagery, all of which very clearly demonstrate the Earth's spherical or globe shape. Instead, they adhere to the notion that the Earth is a flat, disc-shaped plane with the North Pole at the center and an ice wall at the outer edge, preventing objects from falling or slipping off the Earth's surface, or some similar type of definition. Despite the substantial scientific evidence regarding the Earth's spherical or globe nature, the flat Earth belief persists among a small but very vocal community of individuals. So just to demonstrate what I think they're trying to define, we've got a picture of the Earth as a globe, as we all know it, and then an illustration that I found that demonstrates or illustrates the Flerf belief. It is what it is. I did the best I could with that image. Please remember, I am not here to debunk or challenge this belief. Any that are posted that focus on this alone, meaning debunking or challenging, will not be replied to. They'll be ignored. So don't even bother, is what I'm trying to tell you. The only reason that this video exists is just because of the horrific nature of how grief and the grief terminology and the grief process as a whole was used in this Flerffer's video. That is really my main focus on this video, or I'm going to try to keep it that way. I'm going to try to remain objective and polite. We'll see how well I do. So the next concept that we need to address is, what are the 5 stages of grief? The term 5 stages of grief was initially proposed by psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in her groundbreaking book on death and dying. These stages were primarily developed to understand the emotional responses of terminally ill patients. Over time, mental health professionals and researchers recognized the applicability of these stages to individuals grieving the loss of a loved one. The stages resonated with grieving spouses as they offered a framework to understand their emotional experiences and to navigate the grief process. Some people call it the grief process, some call it the grief journey. Either way, it is truly a bizarre emotional experience. If you've not experienced the loss of a spouse, take my word for it, you don't want to. The 5 stages became associated with grieving spouses due to several factors, including the universal nature of grief, identification and validation of the grief journey, sense of understanding of grief and the grief journey, counseling and support for grieving individuals, and educational resources for grieving individuals and grief supporters. Okay, so let's get this show going, and the first thing that I want to remind everybody is, please remember that this is not an intentional debunking video. I am going to try my best to remain objective and calm. So let me introduce you to CC, a Flerffer, a man who usually does his videos from inside a vehicle, sometimes a moving vehicle. He believes in the flat pancake Earth theory. He is a Flerffer, or a Flerf as they're called. I think he also believes that NASA is fake, the moon landings were fake, the stars, the space, it's all fake. I think according to him they're all CGI, or special effects. He probably believes in a lot of other discredited conspiracy theories, but I'm not positive about that. It doesn't matter, because that's not the purpose of this video. I will say that this is not the first time that I have encountered or viewed content from this man. Other YouTubers that I follow who are very well skilled at presenting scientific evidence to discredit a lot of conspiracy theories, I have seen his content there before. My husband and I spent a lot of time during the, as some people call it, the largalurgy, or the plague, or the pandemic, or whatever you want to call it. We spent a lot of time watching those particular YouTubers. So CC's not new to me, but this is the first time that I have ever been frustrated, aggravated, and PO'd enough to actually want to make a reaction type of video to somebody else's content. So yeah. So let's get this video started while my temper's still intact, and let's see just exactly how he is using the 5 stages of grief in a very inappropriate manner. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is CC the Flerffer. As you can tell, CC is sitting inside a vehicle filming his video, which always scares me because a lot of the times that I have seen his work in the past, he is in a moving vehicle, usually looks like some kind of a busy highway, and every time it scares the heck out of me. Thankfully, he's parked. So, let's get started with what CC has to say.
Let's just leave it at that. I'll get into it later. My significant other calls me up the other day and says, my friend's acting weird. I was like, all right, what are you talking about? tell me a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to get into it because eventually she's going to find my channel, or if she doesn't find me, she's going to find me, but on another channel, because I have people with bigger channels that like to take my content and turn it around and try to make me look like a fool, of course, and you've seen them.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there for a moment. He's kind of doing some rambling, but it is kind of important for me to point this out to you. Yes, I have seen these other channels that he is referencing. I do not know that anybody has intentionally diced and spliced his content in an attempt to make him look like a fool. This is actually the first time that I have ever visited Cece's channel, and I couldn't even make it through watching this whole entire video. But yeah, are these other channels trying to make a fool of him by dicing and splicing? I don't know. But here's the thing, y'all. The reason I left this in here is because if you've been to my channel, or if after you watch this video you take a look around on my channel, okay, you can see I can do a PowerPoint presentation and I can add audio to it. And that's the extent of my video skills, okay? It's not much. In fact, what I'm doing with this video right now is totally brand new to me, and it's very frustrating because stopping and starting and going past his cursing points in his video, oh my gosh, it is so frustrating. So I am not a video expert, so please, if anybody wants to bring that up at a later date, that, oh, I took his information from his video and diced and spliced it and rearranged it, no. Anybody wants to say that, I will very happily give you his entire video, my video, and you can compare them side by side, because that's not my intent, and I want to make that very clear before we even continue moving on. Because again, my purpose is not to debunk his belief. It is to take what he says going forward, and we are going to use it as a learning opportunity and hopefully receive some education about grief, the grief journey, grief terminology, inappropriate uses. Yeah, it's going to be a learning opportunity. I don't care what he believes in. He can believe that there are bags of nachos floating around the sun for all I care. That's not the point of my video. So let me go ahead and pause my recording for just one moment. Let's skip past some of his cussy language, and then we're going to pick right back up. Okay. Hopefully I've done this right, and I've eliminated his use of a very bad word. So let's start going again. I told you I have no video editing skills.
So anyway, what she was explaining to me, all of a sudden it dawned on me. She's going through the 5 steps.
There's another cussy. I think I got it stopped in time. Okay, for anybody who's concerned, chopped out some cuss language and some rambles about some, I guess, movie called Die Hard. So let's pick back up.
So the way she was describing this, I was like, these are the 5 steps. She's already at the second one right now, which is anger. And that's the reason why, because she's a very soft-spoken person, I was surprised to hear that. What she was doing, but the 5 steps are basically, when you look it up, it's a death in the family, and then that's what you're going through. I've explained this to you before. You get that first one of denial. No, we live on a spinning wet ball, right? No, it can't be. What are you talking about? You don't live on a flat disc or something out in space, right? No.
Okay, I honestly can't remember now if there's more cussing portions coming, but we've got enough here that we're going to start the educational portion of the video, and then we'll pick back up with what he continues saying. Okay, so here's where we're going to start the learning process. And I did take a screenshot of where CC refers to the 5 stages of grief as steps. So let's learn a little bit more about the 5 stages of grief. The 5 stages of grief, as proposed by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, have long been acknowledged as a framework for the emotional journey of individuals coping with loss. It was later adapted to encompass the grieving process experienced by those who have lost a loved one. The model aims to help individuals understand and navigate the various emotional stages commonly encountered during bereavement, or encountered during the grief journey, if you want to say it like that. And yes, I know there are other models and scientific theories related to the grief process, the emotions that are experienced by grieving individuals. I know that Kubler-Ross's model is not the only model. It is the most commonly known one by most people. Grief is a natural emotional response to loss, primarily experienced after the death of a loved one. Applying the 5 stages of grief to describe reactions to the rejection of a debunked belief, like the flat earth misconception, lacks context and appropriateness. Now, since we're not sure at this point exactly where CC is going with this video of his, we don't know if he is talking about somebody who's rejecting globe earth, or is rejecting flat earth. We don't really know, but the whole purpose of this sentence is that applying the 5 stages of grief to describe reactions in relation to some kind of a conspiracy theory or debunked belief lacks context and appropriateness. The stages are not applicable to situations that do not involve genuine loss or bereavement. So by genuine loss, we are talking about people like me who have lost my husband. We are talking about people who have lost their significant other, that have lost their parent, or have lost their sibling, or have lost their child. Those are genuine losses. By referring to the 5 stages of grief as the 5 steps, in the context or in relation to any kind of conspiracy theory or debunked belief, trivializes the profound nature of genuine grief experienced by individual loss of a loved one. Equating the emotional complexity of grief to a misconception risks diminishing the significance of authentic bereavement experiences. So basically, what we're saying here is, for those of us who are grieving the loss of a real, tangible, physical, living person that was once in our lives, such as our husband or our wife or our significant other, or our parents or our siblings or our children. Okay, that is real. That is a real, genuine, authentic loss. The 5 stages of grief are based on clinical observations and related research to the grieving process. There is no scientific basis for using these stages to describe reactions to beliefs that lack empirical evidence. Doing so misrepresents the purpose and validity of the model. So in other words, think of it this way: Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and then all the people who either worked with her or who have followed her in her footsteps and have been studying grief and developing theories and models that help explain the complex grief journey. All of the amount of research and education and studying, note-taking, everything that they have done, that is what we would call gathering empirical evidence. That's using real science. That's using real education. So applying the 5 stages of grief to anything outside of a true grieving individual really does misrepresent the purpose and validity of their model. And I think it is it's dishonorable to the people like Kubler-Ross and the others who have devoted their life and their studies to this. So referring to the 5 stages of grief as the 5 steps In the context of a flat earth misconception or any other debunked belief or conspiracy theory, it's a misapplication. It was designed to help individuals understand and cope with genuine bereavement experiences. The model was not created to describe reactions to unsubstantiated beliefs. As a society, it is essential to recognize the distinction between genuine grief and misconceptions. So again, genuine grief is the loss of a real person, as in, I lost my husband. A misconception would be something like you believe in pancake earth, or you believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old when there is scientific evidence that definitely proves that is not the case. Or still believe in Santa Claus. Those are unsubstantiated beliefs. So as a society, it is essential to recognize the distinction between genuine grief and misconceptions. We need to treat the grieving process with sensitivity and respect. So, we need to refrain from using the 5 stages of grief inappropriately, and we always need to strive to honor the emotional complexity of true bereavement experiences. So here are the 5 stages of grief broken down in numerical order. The first one is denial, a stage where individuals may resist or refuse to accept the reality of their loss. The second one is anger. Emotions of frustration and resentment arise as individuals grapple with the unfairness of their loss. The third one is bargaining. Individuals attempt to negotiate or make deals in response to their loss, seeking ways to regain control of their life or to alter the outcome. The fourth one is depression. Feelings of sadness, helplessness, and isolation prevail as grieving individuals confront the full impact and reality of their loss. Acceptance. The final stage involves embracing the reality of the loss, finding a sense of peace, and allowing grieving individuals to move forward with their lives. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is a couple of points that he made during a few more minutes of his video. Rather than replay his video, I just kind of abbreviated what he said. No, it's not word for word. It's not 100% literal, but if anybody doubts what I'm conveying on the screen, you're more than welcome to go back and watch his video. You'll see that I just basically did a shorthanded version of what we needed to go over these points. So point number 1 is the correct terminology is the 5 stages of grief, not steps, stages. Number 2, the 5 stages of grief are not basically a death in the family. Anyone grieving the loss of a loved one can move through the stages during their grief journey. A loved one can be a family member, yes. A loved one can also be a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, a member of a group or organization that you belong to or volunteer with. A loved one can also be an acquaintance, a familiar person such as your pharmacy clerk, your physician, or your car mechanic. I recently lost my family doctor. It was not the same type of love that I had for my husband, but I guess you could say in a way I loved him. He was a very great family doctor, and I am truly going to miss him. It's not the same type of grief journey as the loss of my husband, but I still will do a variation of the grief journey for him. It just won't be as intense. I guess that's the best way that I can explain that to you. I'm trying. So point number 3 is he's explaining grief concepts and terminology to others. Oh, my Lanta. This man cannot even scientific evidence when it is put in front of him, and it's obvious he can't even get the terminology correct in his videos. That scares me. So the anger stage that he's talking about, the anger stage of grief, is characterized by intense feelings of frustration, resentment, and bitterness. Grieving individuals experiencing anger may lash out, seeking someone or something to blame for their loss, as they grapple with the unfairness and emotional upheaval caused by the death of a loved one. Yes, I definitely can talk about the anger stage a little bit. I will share with you that probably about 5 months, I guess about 5 months after my husband had passed away, it hit me extremely hard. It scared me. Some of the things that I said to a particular person that I didn't even know, it just came out of nowhere. It was uncontrolled. And when I brought it up to my doctor, he explained to me about a little bit more in depth about this particular stage of the grief journey. And that was basically the catalyst for propelling me into really diving in to do the research and understanding more for my own self, but then for others as well. So basically, this stage of anger, it is a natural response to the overwhelming emotion and sense of powerlessness that often accompanies grief. Allowing oneself to express and process anger constructively can be a crucial part of the healing journey. Now, I don't know if they consider throwing flower pots off of the balcony as constructive, but I guess it was better than lashing out at somebody or doing something else that was maybe potentially more dangerous. But yeah, you have to process that anger. You have to get it out of your system so that you can continue the healing journey. My next question is for somebody who claims to have looked it up, meaning the 5 stages of grief. I'm very surprised that he's surprised at someone's anger stage. Did he even spend at least 5 minutes of time to do research? So the final thing that I want to address before we move on through Cece's video is the differences between stages and steps. So we've already discussed that the correct, accurate terminology is the 5 stages of grief. Stages represent distinct phases or emotional states that grieving individuals may pass through during their grief journey. They are not linear. They can be experienced in different orders and even revisited multiple times. Each stage reflects a range of emotions and coping mechanisms that are common throughout the bereavement journey. So what we're basically saying is that different individuals will go through the different stages in different orders. Somebody may not experience anger right away, but they may go through denial and bargaining before they ever come to anger. They can also revisit a certain stage multiple times. So that means that the intense anger stage that I went through about 5 to 6 months after I lost my husband, I could actually go through an intense anger stage again at a future point. In fact, I have gone through a slightly less intense anger stage not all that long ago. A lot of this really depends on your physical state, where you're at in your healing process. Do you have good support system and good coping mechanisms in place to guide you through the grief journey? A lot of it can depend on the triggers that may come up unexpectedly. I've heard from several people in different online grief support sessions that they go through much more intense stages when they are physically tired. So in other words, if they've not been sleeping very well, or if they've become sick or run down or fatigued, or something else in their life is stressing them, very little things can trigger into going back into the stage of intense anger. It's very different for every grieving individual. Basically, the best thing that I can try to use to explain to someone is that the grieving journey is very complex. It's very challenging. It's very multifaceted. And it's just confusing as all get out. Steps, on the other hand, imply a linear progression. Steps suggest that there is a fixed and sequential order of actions to achieve a goal. Unlike stages, steps do not typically involve revisiting or moving back and forth between different phases. Now, if CC had done any type of brief research, he may be confusing or bringing to mind something else. And I'm not sure I have this 100% correct because I didn't research it. But I want to say that the one alcoholic group, I think it is, uses steps in their method towards healing individuals with alcoholic problems. But like I said, I don't want to say that I am 100% correct on that. So that could be a reason why he is using steps versus stages. But again, I do not know for sure. So let's look at referring to stages as steps. When people mistakenly refer to the 5 stages of grief as steps, it can create misunderstandings about the nature of the grieving process. Grief is a complex and individualized journey, and it does not follow a fixed sequence. Using the terms steps can imply a linear progression, which oversimplifies and misrepresents the emotional experience of grieving individuals. So to accurately represent the 5 stages of grief, it is crucial to use the term or the verbiage stages instead of steps. This terminology acknowledges that the grieving process is nonlinear and may involve movement back and forth between the stages, and the experiences are going to be different between individuals. So in other words, my grief journey is going to look completely different from a woman down the street who lost her husband, okay? How she handles it, how she moves through her grief journey is more than likely going to be very different from mine, even though there are going to be a lot of commonalities, but there's also going to be a lot of differences. The 5 stages of grief, as proposed by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, represents a model to understand the emotional journey of individuals coping with their loss. It is an error to refer to these stages as steps, since steps imply a fixed and linear progression, which does not align with the complex and individualized nature of grief. So, like I just said, grief is complex, it's challenging, it's vastly different for everybody. By using the correct terminology stages, we honor the unique experiences of those mourning a loss and acknowledge that grief is a multifaceted process that cannot be oversimplified into some predetermined sequence. By explaining the differences between steps and stages and highlighting the appropriate and accurate terminology, this response clarifies why it is an error to refer to the 5 stages of grief as steps. So we're basically emphasizing the importance of using accurate terminology to respect the complexity of the grieving process. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move back through his video and look at some more things that he's got in there. So, as I said before, I'm going to pause mine for just a moment while I get his to the next starting point. And then I'll be right back. Okay, here we go.
Anger. And that's the reason why, because she's a very soft-spoken person, you know. I was surprised to hear that, you know, what she was doing. But, you know, the 5 steps are basically, when you look it up, it's a death in the family, and then that's what you're going through. I've explained this to you before. You know, you get that first one of denial. You know, no, we live on a spinning wet ball, right? No. No, it can't be. What are you talking about? I mean, you don't live on a flat disk or something out in space, right? No. It's...
Okay. So Cece is using the first stage, which is denial. And it's kind of sad the way that he is using it and laughing at the same time. So the next section that we're looking at is he's using the grief stage of denial and laughing. Laughing while using the stage of denial to refer to the loss of a, in this case, scientific fact that the Earth is a globe, and embracing the flat Earth concept. That's deeply unacceptable and very inappropriate. Denial is a crucial and sensitive stage of grief that individuals may experience when faced with overwhelming and distressing realities such as the loss of a loved one. Moving through the stage of denial involves the mind's attempt to protect itself from the full impact of the truth, providing a temporary shield against the intense emotions that accompany the loss. Loss is the passing of a loved one, a very real, very physical, very tangible loss. Okay, let's pick up with the next section.
No, it can't be. What are you talking about? I mean, you don't live on a flat disk or something out in space, right? No. No, it can't be. Then you get that anger, and many people have different ways of expressing that. They might be banging walls, throwing chairs, or yelling and screaming at people, or a combination of all of these. 3 bonuses in one.
And we're going to stop and analyze that section. Okay, so we have just witnessed a man using one of the 5 stages of grief and what I would consider to be one of the most horrific displays of immaturity that I have ever seen. Laughing when referencing the stage of anger inappropriately. So using and describing the stage of anger in reference to Pancake Earth, any kind of stupid conspiracy theory, and in a manner in which he does so, very much laughing and finding amusement in himself, is inappropriate and can be seen as disrespectful for several reasons. The stages of grief, including anger, were originally meant to describe the emotional responses to significant loss. They were not designed to apply to beliefs or scientific concepts. Applying these stages inappropriately diminishes the seriousness, let me repeat that, diminishes the seriousness of genuine grief experience. It trivializes the emotional struggles of grieving individuals who have lost loved ones or experienced real bereavement, as in grieving individuals have experienced the loss of someone very physical, very tangible, very real, a very significant part of their lives. So Cece, you're aware that you are laughing like a child while referring to the second stage of grief, which is anger. You do realize that that is very inappropriate and disrespectful to any grieving spouse who has or who is now just starting to go through the incredibly difficult grief journey. Cece, I ask you, what do you find funny in regards to the stages of grief, specifically anger? You do know that you are referring to a stage of grief that many grieving spouses will go through, and for them it is often quite an intense, unexpected, and sometimes very lengthy process to journey through after the loss of their spouse. I certainly didn't find it amusing. I don't think that a lot of grieving spouses would find it amusing. I don't find it amusing when I speak with other grieving spouses who are trying to convey their own emotions and experiences about their own grief journey. So I ask you again, Cece, what in the hell exactly is it that amuses you so much about the stage of anger during grief? So let's just take this particular moment a little bit further. Laughing when referencing the stage of anger inappropriately. Misapplication of grief concepts. The stages of grief were formulated to explain the emotional journey of individuals coping with their loss and the death of their loved one. They were not designed to describe reactions to any type of belief system. Applying these concepts to the pancake earth theory or any other belief system undermines their true intended purpose, and it could lead to the misunderstanding of the genuine experiences of grieving individuals. Laughing when referencing the stage of anger inappropriately actually diminishes the significance of genuine grief. By using the stage of anger in relation to the pancake earth concept or any other belief system, individuals are sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, belittling the profound effect of grief and bereavement on those who have experienced a real and genuine loss. It can be hurtful and dismissive to those who are genuinely coping with the emotional challenges of grief. Laughing when referencing the stage of anger inappropriately trivializes the scientific facts. And I'm not trying to debunk his belief, but laughing in this manner in this video does trivialize scientific facts, because the pancake earth concept has been scientifically debunked, and using a video, his use of his video, basically promoting something that's based on misinformation. The sad thing is he's using a stage of grief or the stage of anger within his video to describe acceptance or rejection of this particular concept or belief. And in doing so, he is perpetuating pseudoscience and detracting from evidence-based knowledge. Laughing when referencing the stage of anger inappropriately can lead to a lack of empathy for genuine grief, genuine people who are experiencing and going through the emotions of the grief journey. Applying grief stages in reference to the pancake earth concept belief system demonstrates a lack of empathy and understanding for the complexity of real grieving processes. It may also dismiss the genuine struggles faced by those who are mourning the loss of a loved one. Using and describing the stage of anger, the 5 stages of grief, and any other grief terminology or concept in relation to a concept such as the one he's relating it to is indeed very inappropriate and disrespectful. The stages of grief should always be reserved for understanding and supporting individuals coping with genuine loss and bereavement. Let me repeat that. The stages of grief should be reserved for understanding and supporting individuals coping with genuine loss and bereavement.
Walls, throwing chairs, or yelling and screaming at people, or a combination of all of these. You have 3 bonuses in 1.
No, Cece, there's nothing a bonus about grieving process.
Then you have bargaining. Bargaining is a funny stage because you're
it's not a funny
you're still
stage.
trying to fight it. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of like you have 3 bonuses in 1.
Okay, I rewound it a little bit because I was talking over him.
Then you have bargaining. Bargaining is a funny stage because you're you're still trying to fight it. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of like no. I mean, look, we're spinning. I mean, we were told about all this stuff, you know.
So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the bargaining stage. The stage of bargaining is a significant part of the grieving process, where individuals attempt to negotiate or make deals in response to their loss. During this stage, people may seek to regain control, or alter the outcome of the situation by making promises or seeking alternative solutions. Bargaining serves as a coping mechanism for dealing with the overwhelming emotions of grief, providing a temporary sense of hope and empowerment. It is important to recognize and respect this stage, as it represents an individual's efforts to find meaning and acceptance in the face of profound loss. So, some of the common behaviors that you may witness among grieving individuals during this stage is negotiating with a higher power. So someone who has lost a loved one may find themselves bargaining with a higher power, such as God or the universe, asking for the chance to have their loved one back or for some sign that they are still present. Making promises. A grieving individual might make promises to themselves or to others, such as vowing to change certain behaviors or habits if only the person they lost could be brought back. Seeking alternative outcomes. Individuals in the bargaining stage may explore various scenarios in their minds, imagining what they could have done differently to prevent the loss or alter the outcome. Seeking confirmation or signs. Grieving individuals might look for signs or messages from their loved one in the hope of finding reassurance or closure. Delaying emotional pain. Some people may attempt to avoid fully processing their emotions by focusing on other activities or distractions, hoping to postpone the pain of grief. Offering sacrifices. In some cases, there have been individuals who have offered sacrifices or charitable acts as a form of bargaining, hoping to gain favor and to change the outcome. It is essential to recognize that bargaining is a very natural response to grief and should be met with understanding and compassion. It is a way for individuals to process their emotions and attempt to find a sense of control and meaning in the midst of loss. So what I want to say to Cece is, no, this is not a funny stage. There is not a single stage about the grief journey that is funny or fun or needs to be utilized in the way that you're referencing it and then laughing your butt off about it, okay? That is just inexcusable. There is nothing funny about it. As I've mentioned before, some of the grief support groups. Okay, here's what we're looking at. Here's what we're looking at with people who are really truly have lost their loved one. Okay, so we are looking at a person who has young children, and because of the circumstances of their life, let's just say somebody else actually owned the house that they were living in. They lost their spouse and they got kicked out of the place that they were living in. The only place that the little children had called home. They're now living in a car. There's nothing funny about that, Cece. I'm sure they would love to bargain with whoever, whatever, to change the situation or to at least have a home. There's another lady that lost her husband, and she refused to miss any work after the service for her husband, and she is pushing herself into some educational classes, continuing ed, to the point where we think she's exhausted because she wants to delay her emotional pain. She's not ready to fully process all of it, so she is focusing on continuing ed because she's pushing herself to the point of exhaustion. But there's nothing funny about that, because physically that can take an even greater toll on your body, and there's just nothing good about that, okay? Just absolutely nothing. There is a person on one of our grief support groups who basically had to check himself into a hospital. and has been there for about a month. Not ready for a release. So do you think that there is anything funny about any of that, Cece? No, there is not. Okay, from where I'm sitting right now, I can see 3 guitars to the side of me. There are 2 acoustics and there's 1 electric. I would love to know that bargaining with son of a higher power would work, because I would love to bargain to have my husband back, so that not only could he be playing the guitars, but he could be singing, and so I could hear him singing and the music. And yeah, I often think about that many times throughout the day and night. I would love to know that there really is such a thing as a higher power, that I could successfully bargain for that kind of an outcome. There's nothing funny about that, Cece. Absolutely nothing funny.
One is depression. Bargaining is a funny. The hardest one is depression. Okay, you're going to get depressed. In my way, I was depressed, and everybody thought I was like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It was so long ago, now. I mean, it's like, it's almost like people, I don't know. Anyway, the depression stage is going to hit, okay? And it sucks. For me, it was more in my stomach, knots in my stomach,
So let's stop a moment and take a look at his disgustful behavior and verbiage around depression. Joking about depression in the context of a pancake earth concept or any other debunked belief system trivializes the genuine emotional struggles faced by individuals experiencing depression during the grieving process. He clearly shows a lack of sensitivity and understanding towards those grappling with the depths of their grief. He clearly shows a lack of sensitivity and understanding towards any individual who is struggling with their mental health. Joking and making light about depression may reinforce harmful stigmas surrounding mental health, leading to a lack of understanding and empathy for individuals facing genuine mental health challenges. This can discourage those in need from seeking support and treatment. Humor that makes light of depression and mental health issues can create a hostile environment for individuals already vulnerable. It may deter them from expressing their feelings and seeking help due to the fear of judgment or ridicule. Making jokes about depression reveals a lack of compassion and empathy for those experiencing emotional pain and vulnerability. It is always essential to foster a supportive environment that encourages open communication and genuine empathy for those in genuine distress. Jokes about depression in relation to pancake earth concept or any other debunked belief system dismisses the gravity of genuine grief and the emotional journey individuals go through while mourning the loss of a loved one. It undermines the significance of their bereavement, and it can be hurtful. The stage of depression during the grieving process is a deeply challenging and sensitive time that requires empathy, understanding, and support. It is crucial to prioritize sensitivity when discussing mental health and grief, to foster an environment of compassion and genuine care for everyone who is facing emotional struggles. So I really just want to apologize for not remaining as calm and as objective as I should have during the making of this video. Grief really is complicated, and it really breaks my heart to know what other grieving spouses are going through. It's horrible to watch somebody as they're sobbing and trying to describe their new life, their new daily struggle during their own grief journey. If you're new to my channel, my normal mission is to provide support and educational coping resources for other grieving spouses and their grief supporters. I never realized that part of my mission would be to react to someone else's very disgusting and inappropriate references of grief terminology and the stages of grief in connection with such a bizarre concept. I think it is very clear, very evident that this man has not really experienced grief on the same level as myself or any other grieving spouses that I have met since I lost my husband. His joking manner, his disrespectful and incorrect use clearly displays any understanding or compassion towards individuals who are trying to navigate the extremely complex road that is called the grief journey. Now, I do have a couple recommendations for this man. Number 1, Walgreens, back half of the store, aisle 9, back half, probably about the middle of the aisle, and acids. They have name brand and generic brand. At least that's where they used to be. That will give you some relief from your stomach problems, from your so-called depression. That's where they used to be. I used to have to purchase them for my husband a lot. They may not be in that particular section of the store anymore, but that's the best knowledge that I have to offer on that suggestion. And as for suggestion number 2, please do not continue to film inside a moving vehicle. As much disgust, contempt, and frustration that I have from this video, nothing is worth filming from inside a moving vehicle and risking your own life or the lives around you, especially not the pancake earth theory. I would not wish harm on you or any other motorist around you. Nothing warrants the filming of such content or any content while inside a moving vehicle, especially one that you are driving. So please, in the future, keep that in mind and consider filming while inside a parked vehicle. We're not going to continue on with his video. I think we've seen enough. I don't know if he reached the stage of acceptance, and I don't know what he might have had to say about it. I know that I can't stand to watch anymore. I think that there are other ways, better educational ways to cover the stage of acceptance and anything else that we want to discuss in relation to the stages of grief. At this point, he could be worshiping Fred Flintstone as the higher power of the universe and believing that Barney Rubble and Dino are the angelic little sidekicks and making new videos about that. So yeah, we've just reached a point where it just is not worth our time to continue moving through his crap. My poor hubby would be shaking his head and asking, what the hell? Using the stages of grief in such a disrespectful, inaccurate manner within the context of a very much debunked concept, it trivializes the work of Kubler-Ross and all the others who had the opportunity to work with her, or those that have followed in her footsteps, in their work to understand and to better support grieving individuals, as well as trivializes the very real and very difficult journey that so many of us have come to know as the grief journey. Using the stages of grief in this inaccurate, inappropriate, and distasteful way only serves to perpetuate misinformation. Personally, I think he's using the stages of grief in a manner that he's masquerading it around within the video like a very loosely use of something very real and scientific for a Flerffer video, which truly disgusting. So yeah, I think we're about ready to bring this video to an end, because I don't think that I don't think I can continue to remain objective and calm any longer. If you've made it to the end of this video, my gosh, I thank you so very much. If you would like to show support for my channel and my mission, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. If you know of any grieving spouses that might benefit from the content, consider sharing the channel with them. I really would appreciate your help in growing my channel, continuing my mission. Please don't forget to hit that little notify bell so that you'll know when my next normal type of content is available. I know I have a series coming up that is centered around the concept of transitioning from summer to fall. So think of it as transitioning from one season to another. So that is a series that is coming up for grieving individuals. Right now it looks like it's going to be a 4-part series with about 2 sessions for each part. So I'm hoping to get that up if not before the end of the first week of August, hopefully very early in the second week. Creating this video took much more time than I thought that it would. I know that I will never attempt to create another video like this again. It was absolutely a horrible experience in so many ways. So again, like I said, if you watch the whole video in its entirety, I cannot thank you enough. As always, please feel free to comment on any of my videos. I really would love to hear from you. While I'm not an expert on grief, I've been spending many months now researching content, resources, coping mechanisms, alternative to medicinal therapies. So if there are any future topics that you would like to see me research and provide video content on, I would be more than happy, and I would be honored to do so for you. Again, my apologies for the background noise of my fan during many of the audio portions of this video. Even at this time of the evening, the temperature is still 102 here, and my air conditioning is struggling to keep up. So that fan it was my husband's fan, and it's a blessing to still have it, and it's still running, and to just have it trying to help keep this room cool, it's a blessing. Again, my apologies for not being able to remain as objective and calm as I would have liked to during the creation of this video. I know it still isn't 100% to the point that we would have liked it to be, but at this point, we basically came to the conclusion that it was time to walk away from it. It wasn't worth the emotional ups and downs, watching a very genuine display of what I think is appalling human behavior, and it just wasn't worth us trying to continue anymore. So yeah, I hope to never have to make another video quite like this one again, because it was not worth it. So we'll be returning to my normal content, my normal type of content with the next videos. So again, thank you so very much if you made it all the way through. I really do appreciate you. I've been Sissy, and I'm wishing you so much hope and light and love. Until the next video, my friend, please take care. Remember that you're loved and you are valued. And again, many thanks for hanging in there with me for this one. Until the next time, bye. I was just about ready to put the final touches on this and export it into video format to drop on YouTube. And I received news that help is needed for 2 widows. Found out that they will be homeless by the end of this month. I do know that one of them has a young child. My heart breaks for them, and I would love to help them, but I'm not in a position to be of much help right now. I know that a lot of you who are watching may either be familiar with fundraisers or know of information that would be helpful to me. So if you know anything about fundraisers, how to set them up, if anybody who views this video would be interested in helping these women out, I would be so appreciative of your assistance. Obviously, my channel is still in its infancy stages. I don't have a lot of reach. I don't have a community yet, but hopefully maybe somebody will be watching this video in the next couple of days, and who knows, you might be a very significant supporter of grieving widows just by dropping some information in the comments. So please, feel free to drop any information that you can provide on fundraisers in the comments section below. Again, I want to thank you for dropping by my channel and watching. Without kind and compassionate people in this world, I know many grieving individuals would struggle without them. So my thanks to all of you. All right, that's it. Until the next time, bye.